After the earth awakened, lights appeared in the heavens. But the Zohar does not speak of light without asking what surrounds it. Around every fruit, there is a shell. Around every soul, there is a garment. A shell can protect what is precious, or hide the light it was meant to serve. The ninth doorway opens with a missing line of connection and one unsettling question. What guards the light when connection grows weak? The Animated Zohar Bereshit A, Anime of Creation. Episode 9, When Light Casts a Shadow. The seeker looked upward. Across the firmament, Meorit, the heavenly lights, began to form. But one connecting line was absent. The sage pointed toward the opening. The Zohar notices that the word is written without a Vav, he said. A line joining above and below. Without that line, the word seemed fractured. The Zohar hears an echo of curse rather than illumination. Then the chapter makes an ancient association with childhood illness. The sage spoke carefully. This is ancient mystical symbolism, not a medical explanation. Illness requires qualified medical care. The seeker looked toward small lights protected behind a gate. So what is the spiritual question? The sage answered, what becomes vulnerable when connection and attention grow weak? A translucent shell emerged beyond the lights. It had no true face, and no light of its own. It moved by seeking something brighter to attach to. The small lights remained behind radiant gates. The sage said, the chapter personifies danger as a shell that tries to cling to a complete form. It does not create life. It lives from light produced elsewhere. The shell pressed against the gate. The guardians held the boundary. A command of light drove it back toward the dark sea. Why does shadow follow light? The seeker asked. Because every new light tests its boundary, the sage replied. Protection is not fear. It is knowing what may enter, what must remain outside, and what the inner life must not feed. The moon began to diminish. As its silver light grew thin, the shadowed shell moved again across the night. The chapter turns toward difficult myths, Ne'ama, wandering spirits, and desire in sleep and secrecy. The sage said, these are ancient symbolic stories. They show what can happen when desire loses consciousness and direction. A quiet adult silhouette rested inside a protected house. Outside, red-violet threads searched for an opening. No body was touched. The threads gathered only where attention had become unguarded. What is repeatedly fed in darkness can gain momentum, the sage said. A moment becomes a habit. A habit becomes a channel. The danger was not night itself. The danger was unconscious attachment. At the gate of the garden, a luminous sword turned. One side shone with warm mercy. The other carried the cool clarity of judgment. The sage said, the sword turns because every boundary requires discernment. Mercy without boundary may permit what destroys. Judgment without mercy may wound what should be healed. The shell fled when the blade turned toward judgment, then waited for weakness. The seeker understood that a gate could not remain asleep. Protection required attention. Not panic. Not obsession. Attention. The holy gate does not hate the world outside. It remembers what it was created to protect. Then the moon began to restore itself. A thin silver curve became a greater circle. The scattered lights returned. The curse-like echo changed into a purified utterance, tested and refined into a shield. The sage said, this is not a medical cure, and it is not permission to neglect practical care. The shield is a spiritual pattern: faith, truthful speech, prayer, ethical action, and disciplined attention. The missing line returned. The word of light became whole, and a white gold shield formed around the small lights. Can words truly protect? The seeker asked. The sage answered, words shape attention. Attention shapes choices. Choices shape the gates of your life. The vision changed. The seeker entered a garden filled with trees bearing golden nuts. King Solomon appeared as a distant wise silhouette, opening one nut and examining its layers. The shell was hard. Inside was another layer, and within that, a brilliant fruit. The sage said, the Zohar compares the worlds to a nut. The inner life is surrounded by coverings. A shell is not evil because it is outside. Without a shell, the fruit may not ripen. But the shell can become a prison, the seeker said. Yes, replied the sage. A shell becomes destructive when it forgets the fruit. When protection becomes control. When discipline becomes fear. When an identity built to serve the soul begins to consume it. The nut opened, and the inner fruit shone without being exposed to harm. A single point of pure light appeared. Because the point was too subtle to be received directly, a chamber formed around it. The chamber released another expansion, and another world formed around that. Layer within layer. Garment within garment. The sage said, each level is an outer covering for what is above it, and an inner life for what is below it. The same pattern appeared inside a human being. Neshama clothed itself in Ruach. Ruach clothed itself in Nefesh. Nefesh clothed itself in the body. The body is not the enemy of the soul, the sage said. The outer layer can become the vessel through which inner light acts. The seeker saw one shell become transparent. It did not disappear. It learned to transmit. The sage turned toward the seeker. This is also the story of your boundaries. Your attention has gates. Your home has gates. Your speech, sleep, habits, media, relationships, and inner life have gates. Some shells protect what is still growing. Some shells hide wounds that need healing. Some were useful long ago, but now suffocate the fruit within. The question is not only, do I have protection? The deeper questions are, what is this boundary protecting? Does it still serve the light? What am I allowing to attach to my attention? A healthy boundary does not extinguish life. It creates the safety in which life can mature. The moon became full again. The gates remained luminous. The shell around the fruit became clear enough for the inner light to shine through. The sage said, the shell must serve the fruit. The garment must serve the soul. The boundary must serve the light. Then the heavens opened. The seeker saw the sun and moon standing together, both vast and radiant. For one moment, their lights appeared equal. But the moon turned toward the sun, and comparison entered the heavens. The sage whispered, the next mystery begins with two great lights. And with the wound created when one light cannot rest beside another. Next episode, the two great luminaries.